All right, never been a sidekick guy, but I'm starting to see the value. You want a job? We could be like Batman and Robin.
I don't need a Robin.
Rick and Morty tied up one of their most long-lasting plot lines just after the middle point of its 7th season. With 3 more episodes this season, and several seasons presumably to come for that matter, why would the creative team blow what could have easily been a season finale level plot development now? Well, this can only mean one thing. What we thought was the story isn't the story at all, and who we thought was the ultimate villain was a mere stepping stone to something even bigger. This entire time, we've been conditioned to believe Rick Prime, the original Rick who pioneered portal travel and killed C-137's beloved Diane, and Beth, has been the big bad. I mean, Rick is the smartest man in most dimensions, right? A near god, or hell, beyond a god? So the Rick at the top of that, with clearly bad intentions, is the be-all villain. Nah, fam. I've got to stop talking like the episode descriptions. The greatest threat to Rick is Morty, or Evil Morty, to be more specific. I don't mean simply Evil Morty, but Evil Morty and what he represents to all of Morty kind. But let's start by examining who we thought the whole story was leading to. Prime Rick. Prime Rick didn't just kill our Rick's Diane, he wiped her out of all existence. Why? In his own words,
"If you're seeing this, you're me, except, less. But you acted like you were better, so I killed your beloved Diane."
That's not evil, ultimate bad guy talk. That's how a toddler with hurt feelings talks. "Oh, you thought you were better than me, so I took what you love." Grow up. Which is what Evil Morty effectively did.
Just another day in paradise.
But more importantly, it cements Evil Morty as the higher of two beings if the whole Prime Rick being dead thing wasn't enough evidence for you. I hate to use a pretty buzzy, overused word, but Rick is a classic narcissist.
Are you serious right now? You little narcissist.
Dude, literal glass house.
You think you're better than me?
Jesus, I hope so.
This applies to all of the Ricks, probably, and often clearly exemplified in how he thinks of himself, deals with other Ricks, and how Ricks treat Mortys in general. Oftentimes, Rick's proven right in thinking highly of himself, but the point is that Evil Morty understands this about Rick very well and has the emotional tools to overcome it. The way you deal with a narcissist isn't to appeal to their sense of self-grandeur, to bait them, to tell them to chase you and obsess with you like Prime Rick did. No, that's almost like intellectual masturbation. The way you deal with a narcissist is to stop giving them space in your heart and mind, to cut them out of your life, and to live well on your own. Which is precisely what Evil Morty was doing outside the central finite curve until Rick C-137 started fracking it. Like how our Rick has grown to have stronger emotionality, Evil Morty has a different sense of emotional maturity, in some ways at least. It's almost not even about the genius levels here, which are fairly on par between Evil Morty and the Rickest Rick. It really doesn't matter how smart you are if you can't figure out how to live with yourself. Much like it doesn't matter how smart you are if you still let your temper get the best of you. Much like it doesn't matter how smart and diabolical you are if you can get tricked and punched to death. Same result. We all have a squishy, vulnerable side we have to take care of, all Ricks included. Evil Morty is above the plane Rick Prime stands on of, "Oh, I'm so great, and to prove it, I'm going to make everyone else miserable." He represents a superior idea that perhaps Dan Harmon describes best.
Evil Morty is actually the more powerful villain, and powerful villains don't just hide from you or fight you, they own you. That's something a real god does.
Harmon explains that completing a vengeance arc doesn't necessarily lead to any real happiness or catharsis, just the shattering devastation of, what am I going to do next? What is my life for? Why didn't that feel as good as I thought it would? The real power is in not caring and focusing on yourself, which, well, yeah, is pretty much a lesson for all of us.
How's it feel? Better? No? Exactly the same? Yeah, it always does.
Well, that and stealing an all-powerful weapon that gives you an absolute kill switch should anything not go your way. Again, you don't have to be the genius who made the weapon, you just need to be clever enough to take it. But here's the thing about what Evil Morty represents. There is no reason to believe he is an anomalous genius, like how Doofus Rick is an anomalous doofus. When Unmort Rickon opens, we watch Evil Morty's story, but with a new origin. Fed up with being the bait or the cargo or otherwise the butt of the plan of the week, he manipulates and finally mobilizes against Rick. Rick, in the general sense, is always belittling Morty and making him feel dumb and replaceable. But what if Morty stopped accepting the kicks and turned them back around? What if the long-built resentment actually resulted in action? With his knowledge of Rick's actual vulnerabilities like addiction and pridefulness, why couldn't any Morty do this, intelligence or not? It is an awakened Morty, a fully realized, full potential Morty, that could be a real problem for Rick, and I think on some level, he knows it.
Listen, Rick to Rick, he's got the weapon plans. Buddy, nip this in the bud. He's 14. What's gonna happen the next time he gets mad at Grandpa?
That isn't to say Evil Morty has everything figured out, because he doesn't. He's too detached from caring about any Ricks, Mortys, or Smith families. He views them as liabilities, like the idea of having to deal with a vengeful summer. He's seen it all the depravity, and reacted with depravity in kind before piecing out. Evil Morty has baggage too, and perhaps he's also got something to learn from our main Morty, who is in the company of the different Rick, who has grown in emotionality. Time will tell. Of course, there is a balance in caring versus detachment, which I'm sure the show will continue to explore. The beauty here is, while we may have thought Rick and Morty was an exercise in nihilism and absurdity, it's actually more emotionally complex than most people expect or are even willing to recognize. There is even an argument to be made that if Rick's realer arch-nemesis than Prime Rick is Evil Morty, or the idea of an ultimate Morty, then Rick's truest, ultimate, biggest enemy, to be revealed even later down the line, could logically just be the idea of Rick. Not Prime Rick, just innate Rick. Yeah, we really went from Rick to Morty to maybe Rick again. What does it say about you if your grandson at his best is your foe? Shouldn't you want the best for someone you love and who always supports you, no less your own descendant? It would be an extremely Harmon thing to do to have the main character realize he is his own worst problem, but in a different way than he initially expected. At any rate, it could be a really interesting exploration. So yeah, dudes who think you are Rick because you are so much smarter and more dead inside than everyone else, and that's such a good thing, you are actually looking in the wrong direction. The idea of dealing with and balancing emotionality and trying to be happy is the real arc, and it's difficult as hell to process. And that's a really fascinating and novel choice. Episode 5 of Season 7 is what many saw as Rick and Morty Endgame, but we are merely mid-season. The real arc, the actually scary one, has just begun. Thanks for watching. I'm Kim Horcher, and for more Rick and Morty, here's what co-creator Dan Harmon and executive producer Scott Martyr have to say about getting back to the show's big story canon episodes. So check that out, and don't forget to follow and subscribe to IGN wherever you like to watch.